The stars had long forgotten the ship. Suspended in the void, it drifted silently, a relic of a civilization that had vanished millennia ago. Its hull was scarred, its lights dim, but something ancient still pulsed within, a heartbeat waiting to be awakened. The human approached in a small scout vessel, instruments barely able to read the ship's signal. Most species would have passed it by, dismissing the faint readings as cosmic noise. But humans had a way of noticing the impossible. Docking was simple, almost too simple. Airlocks that had been sealed for thousands of years opened as if expecting them. The interior was massive, cathedral-like, with corridors stretching into darkness. Strange glyphs etched along the walls glowed faintly as the human passed, responding to presence rather than touch. They walked through silent chambers, recording the technology, the alien designs, the remnants of a long-dead crew. And then they reached the heart of the ship, a control room, untouched by time, humming with power. A holographic projection activated, startling in its clarity. A figure, long extinct, turned toward the human. Its voice was a whisper across time, but unmistakable. "You are the one tasked to fulfill our promise." The human paused. The promise? Across centuries, galaxies, and civilizations, this ship had drifted, waiting for a successor. And now, that successor had arrived. A pulse of energy ran through the hull, responding to the human's heartbeat. Systems flickered to life, engines, sensors, communications. The ship recognized them. It knew them. As they explored deeper, alien guardians stirred, not hostile, but evaluative. They assessed, observed, tested. Yet the human moved with calm confidence, reading their signals, responding to every challenge with awareness and precision. Each step, each gesture, proved not just survival instinct, but mastery over environment, threat, and unknown technology. Out in the void, beyond the reaches of mapped space, the human realized the weight of responsibility. This was not merely a ship. It was a mission, a legacy, a promise written into the stars itself. And humanity had always been drawn to challenges beyond comprehension. The ship's systems whispered secrets of ancient civilizations, lost battles, and long-forgotten alliances. And as the human interfaced with the controls, they understood, the promise was not simple. It would demand courage, intellect, and the instinctual calm that only humans could provide. Far away, alien observers might have called them fragile. But here, alone in a millennia-old ship, the human was unmatched, the heir to a legacy older than most civilizations, ready to carry out a promise written in the stars. The galaxy, silent beyond the hull, held its breath. The ship hummed, alive beneath the human's hands. Panels lit one by one, ancient glyphs shifting into patterns that conveyed information beyond language. The control room seemed to stretch infinitely, the walls responding to thought rather than touch. As the human explored deeper, they discovered a star map spanning thousands of systems, some familiar, most long forgotten. Alongside it, the remnants of a mission that had begun eons ago, an alliance between species now extinct, a pact to preserve something vital across the galaxy. And now, the responsibility had passed to a human. The Guardians moved silently around the corridors, their forms alien and imposing. They were not designed to attack, but to test. Every maneuver, every hesitation, every instinctual reaction was analyzed. The human did not flinch. Calmly, deliberately, they interacted with the Guardians, observing their patterns, responding in ways that defied expectation. The ship responded. Doors opened before a hand reached for them. Systems adjusted their outputs in anticipation of movement. Sensors recalibrated instantly as if the ship itself recognized its new pilot. The human was not just aboard, they were part of the ship's consciousness. Signals flickered across the holographic map. Faint pulses indicated vessels still operational, some carrying descendants of the original civilizations. Others were derelict, drifting without guidance. The human traced a path through the clusters, recognizing a network of hidden stations, encrypted caches, and star systems prepared for an event long predicted. A whisper in the ship's AI, centuries old yet still coherent, spoke, "The promise must be fulfilled, the pact restored." The human nodded. They understood instinctively that this was not merely exploration. It was stewardship. The galaxy had entrusted them with a mission that had survived time itself, a mission that would test every human capacity, intellect, courage, patience, and calm mastery. Out in the void, the human activated the first engines. Power coursed through conduits untouched for millennia, lighting the ship with a glow that reached into the darkness. Outside, cosmic dust and debris reflected the brilliance, creating a halo around the massive vessel as it prepared to move once more. Alien civilizations that had long observed from afar might have dismissed humans as fragile. But here, alone with a ship older than most galactic histories, humanity's potential became undeniable. The pilot did not fear the unknown. They welcomed it. A course was set toward the first station marked in the ancient charts, a system long abandoned, waiting for someone capable of fulfilling the promise. And as the ship glided silently through the stars, the human realized, the galaxy had given them a challenge unmatched in scope, and humanity, as always, would rise to meet it. The first station emerged from the darkness like a relic frozen in time. Massive, angular, and partially overgrown with spaceborne organisms, it floated in silence, orbiting a dead star that had burned for eons. The human ship approached, sensors mapping its structure, uncovering docking bays, dormant defense systems, and intricate patterns etched into the hull, warnings or instructions left by civilizations long vanished. Docking was precise, the human moving with patience and confidence that defied the station's age and unpredictability. The airlock opened, ancient seals yielding as if the station itself recognized the rightful heir. Inside, corridors stretched endlessly, illuminated by flickering lights that hummed with latent power. The human's presence seemed to awaken the station slowly, like a heartbeat returning after millennia. Holographic consoles flickered to life, projecting figures of beings long extinct. Their voices, fragmented and distorted across time, delivered a message of urgency. The promise must be completed, or the balance of several systems would collapse. The human listened carefully, parsing the intent, the hidden meaning, and the unspoken urgency. They did not panic. They did not hesitate. Predators and guardians built into the station stirred as the human walked past. Some had been dormant for centuries, their programming designed to eliminate intruders. Yet the human moved with a calm mastery that neutralized their aggression instinctively. Limbs paused mid-attack, sensors locked onto the human with recognition rather than hostility. What was designed to kill now became an ally, responding to subtle gestures and intentions alone. As the human accessed the station's navigation archives, they discovered a network of hidden jump gates, pathways linking star systems untouched for millennia. The mission outlined by the ancients had been to activate these gates and restore connections that would allow trade, communication, and defense among civilizations thought extinct. The scale of the task was unimaginable, yet the human understood instinctively how to proceed. Outside the station, debris and remnants of ships long forgotten drifted through the void. Some bore insignias of ancient empires, some carried warnings that no species had decoded. The human traced a path with precision, their ship gliding through hazards that would have destroyed others. Every asteroid, rogue comet, and spatial anomaly became part of the challenge, met with calm, deliberate action. For the first time, the human fully realized the weight of the promise. It was not merely a mission. It was stewardship over history, over civilizations long gone, over secrets that had survived only because someone capable, someone human, had finally arrived. The station, ancient and immense, seemed to pulse in acknowledgement. Systems hummed, corridors shifted subtly to guide, and even the guardians who had once been lethal now moved in concert, protective rather than aggressive. The human was not just exploring, they were commanding, harmonizing, fulfilling a legacy written across the stars. As the star beyond the station began to fade in its final moments, the human prepared to move to the next point on the ancient map. Each step brought new challenges, new mysteries, and new dangers. And yet, humanity's calm mastery, resourcefulness, and instinctual understanding were more than enough to face them. The galaxy, silent and ancient, seemed to lean closer, watching the human as they began to restore a promise older than any living memory. The jump gates loomed ahead like colossal arches suspended in the void, their surfaces etched with symbols older than most civilizations remembered. Their energy cores pulsed faintly, dormant for millennia, waiting for a pilot capable of understanding their purpose. The human approached with calm precision, scanning glyphs, sensing patterns, and intuitively synchronizing with systems no one else could decipher. Activating the first gate was more than a technical task, it was a dialogue across time. The human reached out, not with tools or weapons, but with presence and focus. The symbols glowed, energy flowed through conduits long dead, and the jump gate awakened with a hum that resonated through the ship and the surrounding void. The first jump was tense. The human guided the vessel through corridors of energy, weaving past distortions and cosmic turbulence with instinctive control. Outside, the void itself seemed alive, responding to thought and movement. Stars elongated, colors shifted, and a path emerged that no algorithm could have predicted. When the human emerged on the other side, a new system revealed itself, lush, thriving, yet abandoned. Structures floated in orbit, automated systems flickering to life, waiting for the return of civilizations long gone. Here, the promise's purpose became clear. The jump gates were not merely pathways. They were lifelines, connecting civilizations, ecosystems, and knowledge that would have been lost forever. The station's guardians moved cautiously, scanning for threats, yet each predator, each automaton, recognized the human as both guide and master. No weapon had been fired. No threat had been issued. And yet the void obeyed instinctively, the station shifted subtly to aid, and the human moved with perfect harmony across systems. In the first settlement orbiting the system's main planet, ancient archives revealed the scale of what had been left behind, messages encoded across light years, defensive systems capable of repelling entire fleets, and vast knowledge banks containing technologies never seen in the current era. The human interfaced with each terminal, reading data, understanding protocols, restoring functions that had lain dormant for centuries. The challenge was far from over. Rogue predators, remnants of ancient experiments, tested the human at every turn. But with calm composure, every approach was met with instinctual awareness. Threats that would have destroyed fleets fell away, neutralized not with force, but with understanding. The ship, the human, and the guardians moved as one, harmonizing against the chaos of an ancient universe. As the human prepared to activate the second jump gate, a low hum resonated through the ship, a warning or an acknowledgement, no one could be sure. Stars swirled outside the viewport, and beyond the system, more gates awaited. Each one represented a step in the Millennia-Old mission, a chance to restore a promise older than any living memory. And as the human touched the gate's interface, linking consciousness to machine, the galaxy held its breath. This was more than survival. This was legacy. This was humanity shaping history, not by domination, but by mastery, calm, deliberate, and undeniable. The next jump awaited. The next system, the next challenge, the next piece of the ancient promise beckoned. And humanity, as always, moved forward with quiet authority, ready to fulfill what no other species could. The jump felt different this time. Space folded in silence, but beneath that silence was something sentient, watching, measuring, waiting. When the ship emerged from transit, the human found themselves not among ruins or silence, but orbiting a living world. Massive orbital structures ringed the planet, glittering with activity. The sensors read traffic lanes, power signatures, and signals in languages no modern translator could fully decode. The human understood one thing immediately: this civilization had survived. The ship adjusted automatically, its systems whispering data. The planetary defenses scanned the human vessel, paused, then hesitated. Millennia-Old codes embedded in the ship's architecture pulsed outward, recognized instantly by the ancient technology that guarded the system. The defenses stood down. Contact came not as a voice, but as a pulse of intent, a mental handshake. The beings on the surface were cautious, confused, and afraid. For ages they had waited for the return of something they called the Keeper of the Promise. Now a human stood in that place. The human spoke gently, translating the intent of their arrival, explaining that the ancient ship had awakened and called them. The response was wary curiosity. The aliens sent an escort fleet, sleek vessels bearing the markings of the old alliance. As they approached, the human felt the weight of the moment. To them, this was history awakening. To the aliens, it was prophecy fulfilled. Docking at the orbital station was like stepping into living history. The architecture blended organic growth and engineered perfection, pulsating faintly with bioluminescent light. Everywhere, the inhabitants watched, tall, luminous-eyed beings, built with a grace that seemed almost ethereal. They expected something divine. Instead, they found a calm, observant human, unarmed, moving through their halls as though born to them. Their leader greeted the human formally, voice trembling between reverence and disbelief. "You are not as we remembered," they said softly. The human smiled. "Time changes everything. But the promise remains." The council chambers resonated with that phrase. Their records, thousands of years old, spoke of a day when one bearing the mark of the ancient ship would come to reconnect the stars and awaken the slumbering gates. The human's presence verified that the pact was not legend, it was history. Negotiations followed. The humans shared data, recalibrated their communication systems, and reactivated old star charts. Each step restored a link between past and present. And as the discussions deepened, the human noticed something: the civilization had grown afraid of the outside galaxy. They had isolated themselves, building barriers, forgetting the purpose of the old alliance. The human's voice, calm and measured, reminded them of that purpose: to preserve connection, understanding, and resilience among species. It wasn't dominance or control. It was survival through unity. As the human prepared to leave, the alien leader hesitated. "If you truly are the one, then you know where the heart of the network lies." The human nodded. The ship's AI had already shown glimpses of it, a central nexus buried deep within a collapsing nebula, where the core of the ancient promise rested. That was where the final restoration must occur. Back aboard the ship, the human gazed through the viewport at the living world below, its people still watching the ancient vessel in awe. For the first time in ages, they believed again. The engines hummed softly, waiting for direction. The human whispered into the quiet, "The promise isn't a myth. It's memory, and we are its continuation." The ship answered with a pulse of light. Another gate awaited. Another part of the forgotten network, and the heart of the galaxy's oldest story, calling for completion. The stars shifted, and the human set a course forward. The nebula appeared first as a bruise in space, a dark wound wrapped in veils of violet and gold. As the human's ship approached, clouds of charged dust coiled like living things, their edges lit by the faint glow of distant suns. The ship's sensors faltered, systems adjusting, recalibrating, compensating for energies older than the known stars. The AI whispered data in the human's mind, translating frequencies that had not been heard in tens of millennia. "This is where they built the heart," it said softly. "This is where the promise began." Entering the nebula felt like stepping into memory itself. Every pulse of radiation carried echoes, voices layered through time, fragments of messages, songs of civilizations that had believed in something greater than themselves. The human closed their eyes for a moment, letting the ship move instinctively, guided not by instruments but by trust. Lightning rippled across the ship's hull as they passed through gravitational waves that shimmered like music. Massive constructs loomed within the clouds, half ruined, half alive, towering structures suspended among storms. They were gate foundries, the forges that had once created the network linking worlds across the stars. The promise had been born here, in the heart of creation. As the ship descended through layers of ionized mist, a vast shape emerged below, a world-sized station built around a dying star. The AI recognized it instantly. This is the Nexus. The human landed the ship on a platform large enough to cradle cities. The metal beneath their boots thrummed faintly, the vibration of power long contained. The station was not dead, it was waiting. The human walked through corridors vast enough to echo for minutes, light following their steps. At the center of it all lay a chamber shaped like an ancient cathedral, its walls covered with symbols representing hundreds of extinct civilizations. A presence stirred. The air shimmered, and a projection formed, a being made of light and data, its voice older than language itself. "You are late," it said, not with accusation but relief. "We feared the lineage had ended." The human looked up at the being, calm and steady. "Humanity endures," they said simply. The being regarded them for a long moment. "Then the promise may yet be fulfilled. The gates failed because unity failed." Each species turned inward, afraid of loss, afraid of trust. "You were chosen because your kind remembers both fear and courage. You are the last inheritor." The chamber brightened, showing a model of the entire galaxy. Dozens of gate systems glowed faintly, many more were dark. "The heart must be restored," the being said. "When it awakens, the network will reconnect, and every civilization that remains will know we are one again." The task was impossible by any normal standard. The energy required would burn entire stars. But humans had always treated the impossible as an invitation. The humans studied the map, noted the patterns of decay, and began to plan. Each calculation, each motion of the hand across the console brought the heart closer to awakening. As power surged through conduits older than any empire, the nebula trembled. The dying star at its center flared, light spilling through cracks in its containment field. The human felt the ship's energy linking with the heart, merging systems, fusing intent and design. Outside, alien fleets stirred. Sensors detected movement, other civilizations drawn by the reactivation signal, uncertain whether to approach or flee. The human ship stood alone amid the storm, calm at its center, holding a balance that no machine could replicate. The being of light spoke again, voice now softer. "When the heart awakens, all will see what was lost. Are you ready to bear that?" The human smiled faintly. "It's what we do." The light flared, filling the chamber, and the station's hum became a low, steady heartbeat. For the first time in ages, the ancient promise began to live again. The awakening of the heart rippled across the galaxy like the echo of creation. Every species with instruments tuned to the deep currents of space felt it, a low vibration that passed through matter and mind alike, a call older than their oldest myths. In distant councils, empires that had forgotten the word unity paused their wars to listen. The human ship drifted at the center of the storm, linked to the heart's energy field. The dying star glowed white-blue now, its surface webbed with streams of power. The AI's voice was quiet, almost reverent. "They're coming." And they were. Fleets translated out of warp one after another, ornate vessels from the surviving descendants of the First Alliance, angular warships from expansionist empires, drifting arcologies carrying refugees of civilizations barely holding together. Each came drawn by the signal, uncertain if it promised salvation or danger. The human stood on the observation deck, watching the gathering lights of 1,000 ships through the nebular haze. The last time so many had assembled, the galaxy had nearly destroyed itself. A transmission cut through the static, a dozen voices overlapping, demanding identification, control, explanation. The AI began to answer, but the human lifted a hand and silenced it. They opened the channel themselves. "This is the keeper of the promise," they said simply. "The heart of the network is awakening. You can stand together, or watch it burn. For a long time, no one spoke. Then the arguments began, claims of ownership, warnings of danger, pleas for guidance. Old rivalries reignited within seconds. The energy readings of the heart began to fluctuate, reacting to the turmoil like a living thing. The human breathed slowly, grounding themselves in the quiet. Listen, they said, voice even, amplified across frequencies. Your ancestors built this together. You've spent ages dividing what was meant to unite. The heart is not a weapon. It's a bridge. Treat it otherwise, and it will consume you. Their calmness spread like gravity. One by one, the shouting voices subsided. The fleets adjusted formation, weapons powering down. The AI murmured, they're listening. The human nodded. They remember. In the heart's chamber, light condensed again into the form of the ancient being. It looked at the human, its tone weighted with something like hope. You have done what we could not. You have reminded them of themselves. The human approached the final console, where the core's activation sequence awaited completion. The interface was simple, a handprint, a pulse, a willingness to connect. But once engaged, the heart would link every active gate in the galaxy, drawing power from every star in range. If the gathered fleets panicked, the chain reaction would be catastrophic. The human placed their hand on the console. The room filled with white light. Outside, ships aligned instinctively, as though responding to an unspoken command. Energy lanced from the heart through each gate network, spreading in radiant filaments across the galaxy. Worlds dark for ages lit again. Stations came alive. Forgotten colonies heard the voices of their distant kin. For a heartbeat that seemed to last forever, the entire galaxy breathed as one. Then silence. The AI spoke softly. The network is stable. The human looked at the glowing star map now pulsing with light. The promise is fulfilled. From the gathered fleets came no cheers, only quiet awe. Across the channels, messages of peace began to replace demands for power. The human's voice reached them all, steady and grounded. It was never about control. It was about remembering that none of us survives alone. The nebula began to calm, the heart's energy settling into a steady rhythm. The star that had seemed doomed now shone with renewed life, its light reaching farther than it ever had. The AI asked quietly, and you? What will you do now? The human looked out at the countless stars, a faint smile forming. There's always another promise to keep. The ship turned slowly away from the heart, engines whispering. The gathered fleets parted to let it pass. No one tried to stop them. As the ship vanished into the shimmer of the nebula, the heart pulsed once more, like a farewell. The nebula faded behind them until it was only a thin glimmer on the scanners, a pulse of gold and violet swallowed by the dark. The human ship glided through the quiet between stars, its engines whispering, the AI murmuring occasional readings that were almost like breathing. For the first time since the discovery of the ancient vessel, there was no mission dictating their path. The heart pulsed steadily in the background of all communications now, its rhythm echoing across the entire galactic network. The promise had been kept. The human sat in the observation chamber, watching the starlight curve across the hull. Messages streamed through the comm arrays, thank yous, invitations, questions. Worlds long cut off from one another were reaching out again. Civilizations that had forgotten the meaning of cooperation were learning it anew. It was strange, the human thought, how quickly the universe could begin to heal when given the smallest reminder. Navigation suggests a drift toward the Perseus verge, the AI said softly. Uncharted space. The human smiled faintly. Uncharted sounds good. They had no need to return to the heart or the councils forming around it. The new era belonged to the worlds now awakening. The ship, though, seemed to sense another layer of its ancient duty. It adjusted course on its own, responding to a faint beacon buried deep in subspace, a frequency older than the heart itself. The signal led them beyond the edge of mapped stars, into a region where time seemed slower, gravity uncertain. In the darkness, something vast waited, a sphere of glass and metal large enough to hold a moon inside it. The hull shimmered with pale light, patterns shifting like constellations rearranging themselves. "This wasn't on any of the charts," the human murmured. "It predates them," the AI replied. "It may be the origin." The ship docked without a sound. Inside, there were no corridors, only open space, suspended structures, and motes of light that responded to movement. The human floated through the chamber, touching nothing, letting the environment adapt. Slowly, the lights gathered before them, coalescing into the shape of a figure, not one species, but many, blended and fluid, speaking with a voice that sounded like memory. "You restored what we began," it said. "You connected the stars again. But do you know why we built the promise?" The human waited. The figure's voice became softer, like wind over distant oceans. "It was not to survive. It was to remember that survival is not enough. The promise was to seek, to create, to understand." The lights brightened around them, showing visions of civilization still young, still fearful, and of others already reaching beyond the new network toward deeper space. "You are the next step," the voice said. "The bridge not just between worlds, but between what is known and what can be." The human felt a quiet clarity settle over them. The ship was ready. Its system synchronized with the sphere's light until the two became one continuous glow. The ancient being's image dissolved into a single phrase that resonated through the hull: "Keep looking forward." When the human returned to the cockpit, the AI's tone was lighter. "Coordinates received." "To where?" "Beyond." The human laughed quietly, a sound that filled the silent cabin. They set their hands on the controls, watching as the stars stretched into thin silver lines. Behind them, the heart of the galaxy shone steadily, its light already fading into distance. Ahead lay the vastness, unwritten, unclaimed, unknown. As the ship accelerated, the human whispered into the dark, not as command or prayer, but as promise: "We'll keep the light moving." And the stars answered, one by one, as if awakening to listen.